serpent came out of black, ancient margina to block the light from above. He opened his mouth and cold water poured. The thermal current died. The sea serpent's voice didn't come from one direction.
This scene is exactly as it was in my previous life. The sky outside has turned the color of a wound. The Shark Lord stands before us in his full power, in surface form. But how could it be Thessaly in his arms? In my previous life, on the day of the Tidal Covenant Rite, my sister chose the lionfish fae. She left the whale shifter, the one nobody wanted, for me.
It was fate. A drift born for a beast.
Instead, I saved a Shark Lord by accident. He took me as his queen. 5 heirs for the shark bloodline, a clan that had gone generations across the deep realm. My sister, bonded to the lionfish fae, was cast out for barrenness. I came home with my youngest. My sister poisoned my bowl. Killed both. When I woke, it was the day of the rite again.
Everyone present is a worthy son of their bloodline. Choose freely.
The hall filled with glances, with offered flowers, with quiet negotiations between bodies and bloodlines. I didn't want any of it. In my last life, childbirth had stood alone. Then the doors blew open. He arrived in a surge of volcanic current, a Shark Lord in his full power, and he had his arm around my sister's waist.
Thessaly saved my life. From this day forward, she is my true mate.
A Shark Lord choosing one of ours, choosing her as first and only. It hadn't happened in living memory. I knew then. She'd been reborn too. Now I looked at her, draped against the Shark Lord, already victorious. She thought she'd won. She hadn't thought through what it would cost her. Shark Lords are of the volcanic current element. Their mates sleep in volcanic current, bathe in volcanic current, eat volcanic current food. For a bloodline like ours, deep current by nature, that's not a marriage. It's a slow execution. Last time, I had no choice but to pretend to like it every day. I smiled through the sacred thermal vent walks, through the scalding baths, through the meals that felt like swallowing coals. By the time I was pregnant, my core was already cracked. The children drew. Thessaly was deep current too. She just didn't know what she'd agreed to yet. The whole keep celebrated. Every unmated girl in the order delayed her own bonding to help prepare Thessaly's. The gift list ran 10 feet long. The High Warden nearly emptied the sanctuary's vaults. I was the only unmated woman left. That made me the obvious choice for handmaid. Thessaly stood over me and smiled.
Before you were the elder, I deferred to you. How does this feel, sister?
I said nothing. She stepped forward and struck my face.
The High Warden has already agreed. You belong to me now. I'll hit you when I want, praise you when I want. You have no say. Start learning.
A courier arrived from the Shark Lord. A volcanic silk mantle, white as sea foam, heat-resistant, enchanted for speed. Thessaly touched it with both hands. I knew that mantle. For volcanic current bloodlines, it was a treasure. For deep current bloodlines, it was a punishment. I'd worn it every day of my first marriage. It had carved away at my core for years. Thessaly would find that out eventually. Then a girl came swimming fast.
Volcanic current damage on the sacred reef! What an awful omen. Today of all days.
I didn't wait. I swam. The sacred reef was burning hard when I arrived. Black clouds of silt, screaming from inside the coral line. The Covenant Warden stood at the edge and wouldn't move.
That volcanic current belongs to a Shark Lord. We interfere, we offend him.
One of them said.
Your sister's bonding is today. Don't make trouble. They're only low-rank relives.
I looked at him for a long moment. Then I went in. The silt blinded me fast. The thermal current scorched my scales. But I was deep current. Wherever I moved, cold spread behind me. It slowed the thermal currents enough to matter. I remembered what my foster mother taught me. Clear a line. Deny the thermal current somewhere to go. I tide-shifted to full form and called out. Shark, manta ray, swordfish, sea turtle they came. They carried cold-hardened vessels in their jaws. A whale used its mouth. Sea urchins and mantis shrimp worked the thermal brakes. We were losing. Then we weren't. Then the reef shook. The seabed split open. A sea serpent came out of black, ancient margina to block the light from above. He opened his mouth and cold water poured. The thermal current died. The sea serpent's voice didn't come from one direction.
This reef is mine. Who damaged it?
The Covenant Wardens said nothing. 1,000 tidal cycles in this valley, and nobody had thought to check whether something older already lived here. Then Thessaly pointed at me.
Look at her! Ash everywhere! Burned scales! It had to be her!
Every eye turned. I was standing there with my hands at my sides, charred, bleeding in 2 places. The same hands that had just spent an hour fighting the thermal current. I was certain someone would say it. Any of them. They'd all seen me swim in. Whoa. The Covenant Warden looked at me for a long time. Then he bowed.
The Sea Serpent Sovereign. Our wayward daughter did this. She is yours to punish. We offer her freely.
I stood still. Not one of them spoke for me. I had bent myself in half for these people in my last life. I had skulled carrying children for a clan that wasn't mine, for a man who never once made me warm. I'd done it for them, kept them safe, kept them proud. And now, they were handing me to a sea serpent, just to buy themselves quiet. I looked at the Covenant Warden.
The volcanic current was shark-made. Everyone here knows that. I'm deep current. How would I produce sacred thermal current?
Thessaly cut in immediately.
You're my handmaid. You had access to my husband's tide brands. Easy enough to steal a spark. Sea Serpent Sovereign, the evidence speaks for itself. She damaged your sacred reef.
I held up my hands. The skin had peeled back in places.
If I started it, why did I try to stop it? To look innocent.
I laughed. It came out wrong. Too much feeling in it.
What do I have to gain? Any of it. What exactly do you think I wanted?
The Covenant Warden stood.
Sylvaine. Just admit it.
That was my name. Sylvaine. I looked at him for a long moment.
I'm done with this covenant. All of it. Every debt between us is settled.
The sea serpent spoke again, quieter this time.
Enough. The girl comes with me. Whatever she is to you, she isn't anymore.
The darkness rolled toward me. I closed my eyes, pushed at his hand instead, bit by bit, prying his grip from my wrist. Then I shook out my aching hand and went back to my room, muttering the whole way. He looked down at his own hand, then back toward where I'd gone. A faint flush crept into the corners of his eyes.
Little sister, look! A white snake! He'll shift into a dragon one day and spoil you rotten.
My sister set him into my open hand.
Evelyn, you're too generous. White serpents ascend more often than black ones, and your sister doesn't have your looks or your temperament. By any measure, you're the better match.
My sister's face flickered.
I'm the elder sister. It's only right.
I said nothing. Anyone who looked carefully could see the white snake was barely alive, while the black one had fierce eyes and scales like polished lacquer. My sister knew exactly what she was giving away. In my last life, I'd taken him out of pity. My sister had taken the strong one, black scales, sharp eyes, already choosing her before she'd finished reaching. She'd handed me the leftover, half dead, colorless, barely breathing. I brought him home anyway. 10 years. I spent everything I had. I'd told him once, in the dark, that I wouldn't leave him even if he never shifted. I thought those eyes looking up at me meant something. Then the flood came. He became a dragon overnight, and he pulled my sister out of the water while I went under. He'd been able to take human form for months. He'd heard every word I ever said to him. He simply hadn't thought I was worth answering. Now, staring at those tiny fangs raised at me in contempt, I felt nothing but irony. Crack! I threw him at the stone, swung my pack on, and walked.
Little sister!
My sister scrambled to cup him in her hands.
He's a living creature! All living things have their time. If he falls today, that's his fate.
The villagers closed in, whispering, cold-blooded, not like Evelyn. Beautiful people have good hearts. My sister told them not to say such things, which naturally drew every eye back to her with fresh sympathy. She always did this, pointed the blade at me, then turned around playing peacemaker with a wounded look, as though she were the one enduring hardship. I smiled.
If you're that kind-hearted, sister, take them both. Go ahead. If he ever ascends, I won't expect a thing.
She had no answer. The crowd had already turned their hopeful eyes back to her. A flash of white light. Everyone froze. A young man in white robes stood where the snake had been, breathtaking. A thread of blood at the corner of his mouth. Little White had shifted into human form. I tightened my grip on the pack straps without thinking. I'd always believed he learned to take human form after I'd nursed him back to health. It turned out he'd known from the start. All those years, he'd watched me get laughed at by everyone for carrying a snake that couldn't shift, never lifted a finger. And now, in his weakest moment, he'd forced the transformation for my sister's sake.
Indra, I'll take responsibility.
My sister changed her tone immediately. If he could shift, ascension wasn't far off. The whole crowd was struck silent by the sight of him, that impossible face.
Little sister, since you said you didn't want him and you wouldn't hear me out, I suppose I have no choice but to take him home.
Evelyn, you don't owe anyone an explanation. She's the one who gave him to you. If she dare take it back, we'll all lose respect for her.
Oh, please.
My sister colored slightly.
My sister isn't that kind of person.
I looked at Little White, cold and steady. He looked back at me through the crowd. This frantic transformation, this look in his eyes that didn't belong to a first meeting. I understood. He'd been reborn too. He watched me turn and walk away without a shred of hesitation. Something flashed in his eyes. Confusion, then surprise. The whole village buzzed with talk of how I'd let the most remarkable serpent in the world slip through my fingers. His divine bearing made believers of everyone. Everyone believed he would ascend to become a dragon. They mocked my blind stupidity. They praised my sister's karma for her kind heart. Everyone assumed I'd come crawling back, that I'd start fawning over him soon enough. But I went home and didn't look at him once. Eventually, the next time we passed each other, a hand caught my wrist. I yanked back. He only held on tighter. He stared at me with a furrowed brow and said nothing. That look was a question, and underneath it, something like displeasure. Was he asking why I wasn't giving him the same attention as before? Did he genuinely not know? I couldn't pull free. I pushed at his hand instead, bit by bit, prying his grip from my wrist. Then I shook out my aching hand and went back to my room, muttering the whole way. He looked down at his own hand, then back toward where I'd gone. A faint flush crept into the corners of his eyes. When someone has favored you for a long time, perhaps that favor starts to feel like something owed. The day I stopped, he'd probably think I was the one in the wrong. All those years in my last life, dragging him everywhere with me, through rain and wind. I'd built something I'd thought was real. To cut it off so suddenly, my chest still ached with it, whether I wanted it to or not. But that night, getting up to find water, I heard voices murmuring from the corner room.
My lord, if you feel you owe something to the second young lady, perhaps you could serve as her bonded companion instead?
I looked through the gap in the door. Little White stood with his hands clasped behind his back, white robes, back to me. So perfectly formed, he didn't seem to belong to this world. When he spoke, even his voice was like struck silver.
Given that I've been given another life, I naturally mean to make amends for my regrets.
The figure kneeling behind him, I couldn't see his face.
But didn't your elder brother claim the first young lady first?
And?
Little White turned his head. I saw the cold light in his eyes catch something it had no business holding. Something burning and dangerous.
I came into this life for her. Nothing will stop me from standing at her side. Not even my brother. I will not give one step.
I'd heard enough. I turned to leave. 2 steps out, I heard the kneeling figure ask,
Why you are so devoted to a mortal woman?
The moonlight softened Little White's eyes.
A Dragon's Rest Cove when I fell. I will never forget it.
She lifted me in both hands and kept watch over me for 49 days.
Without her, I would have failed my tribulation. I'd have dissolved into nothing but old bone.
Dragon's Rest Cove. I stopped dead. My hands had started trembling. That was where I'd once saved a small white snake. I'd kept vigil over him for 49 days. Only when he started to recover did I shoulder my herb basket and walk back to the village. I'd never told a single soul. So that snake, and Little White, They were the same creature. I squeezed my fist shut. A laugh escaped me before I could stop it. Little White, you absolute fool. I had no intention of letting him know I knew. This life, I had other things to pursue. I went out to gather herbs far less than I used to. Most of my days I spent tucked away in my room, reading. Until the annual Blossom Festival, when my sister physically dragged me out of the house.
It's the Blossom Festival. If you don't come, you might not get the blessing of the flower goddess this year.
The flower goddess. Her blessing. I glanced back at my thoroughly dog-eared copy of the old histories, considered for a moment, and nodded.
Your sister has prepared an outfit for you. Throw out all those rough old rags. You need to dress properly for the Blossom Festival.
She pressed a bag into my hands and went off. The beautiful outfit turned out to be a garish thing. Red flowers clashing violently with green leaves. When I went to find something else, every other piece of clothing I owned was gone. That shade of red and that shade of green together made someone like me, already unremarkable, look even worse. I'd been reading all day and I was hungry. With no other choice, I put on the awful thing and went out to find food. The moment I stepped outside, I ran straight into my sister, drifting through the festival in gauzy layers with a group of her friends. When she saw me, the whole group froze.
Oh gods, she doesn't think that looks good. She doesn't think that looks good, does she? She's trying so hard to match the festival theme, I'll give her that. But a weed dressed up is still a weed. Is she actually trying to compete with Evelyn for Belle of the Festival? I mean, she did succeed. Just as the village fool, the fabric Evelyn's wearing. That white serpent made that with some kind of enchantment. And this one shows up in a floral sack. Everyone, please.
My sister floated forward in her gauzy robes, sweet perfume ahead of her.
Nephrian, I helped you seize the septal and become the king of Olympus.
Now that Zeus is gone, Eris's daughter will decide our future. She's gifted with purification power, and the lover she chooses shall be the new king of Olympus.
Today, I finally married my beloved Nereon.
Lord Nereon, it's Lady Cleis! She has cast herself from the Thunder Cliff.
Melina has been my attendant goddess since I was young. Cleis was her only daughter. She must be heartbroken. Go, and send her my deepest condolences. Pardon me, my grip slipped. Let us continue.
I once believed that he shattered that glass from worrying about his attendant goddess, but I found out it was out of love for Melina's daughter, Cleis.
Cleis and I planted this tree together when we were young. On the day of our wedding, Cleis leaped from this very spot. She must resent me deeply. The lightning tore her apart, along with our unborn child!
What?
You really think I married you out of love? I married you only for your title. You are the reason why Cleis and my child are gone. You drove them into the abyss. You will come here daily to water this tree with your blood. This is the least you owe her.
In less than a year as king, he framed my father and brother. He accused them of conspiring with the sirens to betray Olympus and cast them into the flames. Father! Quiet!